Hope the title is okay.
I didn't see.
Oh,
I'm sure it's fine.
okay. It just says talking to Tiffany about men.
Perfect. Yeah. Oh boy. Oh, there we go.
Yes. And we're live. And it's Tiffany and I talking about men this time. We've just viewed Daniel Sienkiewicz's stream and have a few words to say about it. Tiffany was talking to Daniel earlier, and how did it go?
Um, well, I think it didn't go as well as the first time we spoke.
He was a bit
He
excitable, wasn't he? He kept.
Well, he was frustrated that I wasn't, I think, it is as agreeable as I was the first time I hopped on his panel. And that was because the first time we spoke, it was a very casual elementary topic. We just were talking about personal experiences and things like that. He started kind of droning on and was losing me with his point. And
And then when you
the
ask for
problem I
clarification, he talks more quickly. He doesn't. He just talks more quickly so he can finish quickly. And it's like, but there's no point because we didn't understand what you were saying anyway.
Right. If I don't know what he's talking about, then there's no conversation. There's not much to talk about. So if I don't know who Paul Godfrey is, maybe I should, maybe I shouldn't. I don't know. Then I'm going to be lost in translation there. But yeah, he was really getting mad. I do tend to interrupt on panels. There's a bit of a delay for me, I think sometimes, but with him, he goes on so long. I forget what I wanted to say, and it just, yeah, he would be awkward at a dinner date. That's all I know. I would have to drink a lot.
Yeah, yeah.
So would he.
But it's hard. Sometimes you do have to interrupt because if you don't know what the subject is anyway, so them allowing them to finish their sentence would just not mean anything if you never knew what they were talking about in the first place, right? I know sometimes
Yeah.
it's rude to interrupt, but he does get really angry and and triggered when sometimes I really don't know what he's talking about, or when he uses words in a peculiar way that I've never heard used before.
I'm glad you feel that way too, because I feel a little still. I'm thinking maybe I'm out of my pay grade here, because these are kind of new areas of YouTube for me, these topics. And I don't have much experience in a historical manner or in an educational manner, but with a lot of the history of certain things. And so I'm just kind of learning. And so a lot of these things are first time conversation for me even. And I don't mind admitting that, and I don't feel there's I'm losing any type of uh, forward momentum and saying, "Hey, can you explain that to me?" But what cracked me up about it is I think he was really the irony is I think he was really trying to control his temper with me too. I think it would have been, I think it would have been more explosive, but he was trying to cap it with, because he yelled, you know.
I know.
I, oh my God, just like, wow, buddy, poor thing. Poor thing. Yeah, he's interesting guy. Yeah, I agree with him on some topics, but I can find common ground with a lot of different things and some sort of logic to what he's saying from maybe a medical standpoint. But um yeah, he's an interesting. I don't understand his liberalism. That's the main thing he confused me on, how he's a liberal, but that just went way over my head.
Does he
His
identify as liberal? I didn't know that.
That's what I thought he was saying to me because
I, th-
yeah,
I
I
thought
think
he
he
calls
did.
himself some kind of left nationalist person. That's what I understood him. He said he didn't want to be associated with the right, But then, like, then you think, well, Hitler kind of wanted to do this sort of, fusion of nationalism and communism, and then that's why he called it National Socialism, you know? Um,
Yeah, yeah. I
and,
don't
and,
know. He
and
called himself an actual liberal. It was, I was like, wait a second.
Yeah. And the thing is, it's like it's so similar already, but I mean, I guess he would be trying to say, well, I identify as National Socialist, but without the anti-Semitism, right? I mean, you could sort of say that, like one-party state, government in the national interest, but in under a socialist system, which is kind of like China, because I think
Yeah, yeah,
China's probably the only people to have done National Socialism most successfully, with their one party. Of course, they
right.
don't call it that, but yeah, yeah. So, I mean, so all these political labels are very confusing anyway, and they change their policy. So people, ultimately are in the dark about what's being really done.
Well, I don't think there's, I think people become really the judgment on for instance, being structured like China, where there's but people tend to focus on the censorship and the limitations. But there's also things you can look at that would be good to pull from it. I don't believe in the two-party state either, honestly. I don't even really think it exists in our country. I believe it's a facade for control. You allow people to believe they have a choice, and that's very easy to control that way.
Yeah,
We
but
think
but but
we're
they've
voting in these.
grown wise to it, which is really the problem, and it allowed the growth of corporate America, because if you
Mhm.
have these sort of crazy year-long campaigns for the presidency, you need a lot of money, and if you get a lot of money from corporate America, they'll expect their payback, and it will be
Right. Well, that's really
policies
who's
that they
ruling us.
want.
Yes, yes, and that's really who's in control here, Claire. Is it is corporate America. It is pharmaceutical. It is all of these entities.
And what do
And
you expect? You handed power to them through the way you conduct your elections. And that's what I've been trying to tell people. And they say, oh no, it's the Jews. And it's like, no, no, it's the way you run your elections. You ask
yeah,
them for money and they give you money and you win. They expect you to, do a few policies that they like.
yeah, and that's what cracks me up about the people who scream about, the gun control and the this, if they really knew what was going on here, knew what they're talking about, gun control in itself is impossible. The NRA has so much money invested into government and so much control. That in and of itself is the biggest hurdle that any of these gun lobbyists are going to be facing. Now, I'm not, and I'll be honest, I'm not necessarily against safe gun legislation to prevent, psychopaths from having fire. I mean, people are going to get a gun if they want to get a gun, but I don't think there's anything wrong with background checks or smaller magazine capacities or any of these things. I mean, it's just kind of common sense to me. You don't want people to have the weapons of war, right? I mean, there's no need, I don't think. So, things like that, I don't, bat an eye at. But what what we've allowed to happen here is we've completely lost control of this country as citizens, and we've given it to these corporations and these different industries. And like you said, we're now suffering from this because the laws are no longer based upon what's good for us. It's based upon profits,
Yeah,
right?
it's
And
based on what
industry.
corporate America wants, and corporate America gets because it easily buys up this your politicians, and it's like, well, China doesn't have to do that. It doesn't run elections. It doesn't have to annoy its people by asking them what they want, and they're not giving it to them. You know,
Mhm.
and
And then sadly, we're wiping out all of the smaller business, slowly but surely every single, mid-sized business in this country is closing, it's shuttering down. I mean, they're there's very little individual business out here anymore. Everything is just becoming these large, Amazons and there's no mom and pop shops. So we're losing this business ownership amongst middle class people, which was really kind of our backbone. That's really what made this country so great and so have so much opportunity, because you could strive to own a vacuum cleaning repair shop. You could strive to have a liquor store. You know what I'm saying? You could own these little businesses and do well and provide and create a nice living for your family. That's impossible anymore. You can't do that
Yeah,
here.
because of the red
Um,
tape and all the,
yeah.
hoops they make you jump through, which is everywhere in the West. And, the solution is so simple. I mean, there's so many things. It's like, well, if you just do this little thing and everything will be all right. And nobody's interested because, I don't know, they expect failure, or they just assume nobody's going to listen to them, or they won't admit that they did anything wrong. So, it becomes, okay, I mean, I know if I say what I say, it means a one party state, but it's something that is worth considering, because if you look at what Washington said, he didn't approve of the party system. He knew there would be a problem, and and was saying, don't have political parties because you'll just unnecessarily divide yourselves and end up the way things are at the moment. I mean, the first time I read his speech was in February last
Mhm,
year, and that was only
mhm.
because I was following, the Senate, and because of the Trump saga, and I thought everything Washington warned about in his farewell speech, America is doing now, and and I think it's a tradition. Every February, a senator reads out the speech, but it seems that it is read out with no understanding at all. And ever since then, I've been trying to get Americans to read it, and then we can discuss it on the stream, and none of them would, or um, or I don't know, they forget or something. But
I'm looking at it right now. It's been a long time since I've read any of Washington's addresses. I have to say it's probably been since I was in school. I've even looked at any of these. I'm not, I mean, I'm just being
I know.
completely honest here. And that's the problem. See, another problem we have here in particular is we have no value in our history, right? We absolutely do not value our lessons from the past. In fact, we tend to brush them under the rug, rewrite them. There is very little respect for what people went through in order to get us to, the state we are in.
Mm.
Um, Maybe not now, but there's not a lot of people who even know their constitutional rights.
Yeah, they don't
Americans
care
are
about the First Amendment. I talk to Americans.
no.
We don't care about it. But come on, and they really don't care about it.
Because it doesn't serve them. See, this is a country of very self-serving and entitled and selfish individuals. This is very, there's very little um, national interests that we all can relate to or agree on or come together with, or we've become um, categorized. I was trying to tell Daniel this. I think we've become categorized into these little groups where there's no common ground. We hate everyone. We disagree with other opinions to the point where we're calling opposing opinions, domestic terrorism. I mean, it's really out of control, and I don't think anybody really cares to change it all that much, because they just keep going with the same, and it's not working. But we asked for it, man. I mean, and the thing is too is there's so with the internet now, there's so many psychological type of manipulation going on with people that I'm been researching a little bit too, and yeah, we're
Psyops.
really lost. Yeah, so when I say psyops, I'm saying it in a more not so much a conspiracy fashion, but more of a actual military practice. They have there's a channel I subscribe to, and they outline some of these things that go on, and it's not just here. I mean, America interferes in quite a lot with influence over elections in other countries, and the influence over the people. And there's actually a task force right now that is they're tracking and they're studying and they're doing these operations on citizens with social media, um, to basically create these. I'm trying to think how to explain this. They're basically trying to create this tone amongst these platforms that is very mentally ill, I want to say, and very guided. And it's really sick stuff. I was shocked. A buddy of mine sent me this website. I'd have to find it. But anyways, the long story short here is we have become detached from one another. We have become dependent on uh, electronics and the internet for our social satisfaction and our interaction. And we've really lost our connection. And it's sad to see because once we separate from each other and we don't have value for other people, I think we're just going to go way south. This is when we stop caring about our futures and our neighbors, we're
including
done,
our own, including our own, because we might have reached such a stage of, nihilism. But what I'm
Yeah.
trying to say is that the internet sucks up a lot of our time, and quite often we think we're doing something significant, but actually, nobody heard, nobody listened. And an example would be shadow banning. So you would be tweeting and posting to yourself and nobody reads it, right? But at the time you think, oh wow, I'm being so clever and I said this, great thing, and actually nobody read it. Or I mean now Facebook puts your post, at the bottom of the list, so it doesn't show up on people's feeds until a much later because you've been a naughty girl saying, mean things about other people. And they weren't even, particularly mean. I mean, currently I've been disabled from posting for 6 days just for saying that the British are the fall guys of the Americans, in relation to Prince Andrew.
You got put in Facebook jail for
Yeah, yeah.
that's funny.
For
You
six
can't, yeah, they
days.
don't, yeah. Well, you know what Facebook's doing, right, Claire? They're changing their name to Meta, and
Yeah.
they are creating. Oh God, I mean that whole prospect is just beyond scary. I don't even know what to think about that. But yeah, Facebook is run by a very sick individual. I mean, Mark Zuckerberg is he's twisted. He participates in a lot of bias on that platform. You can't, there's no, but that's the problem, Claire. Privately held companies, there is no protection with the First Amendment, at least here. You don't have any rights once you subscribe to these platforms, unfortunately. And I get, it's funny because people say I'm because of my volunteering for something 5 years ago, I silence people, but ironically is I can barely post anything anymore on either one of my YouTube channels. On Facebook, I don't even bother. I get banned so much for anything that has to do with medical interventions and things. So I've kind of Twitter is just a joke. I actually had one tweet go viral recently, and it was such a ridiculously stupid tweet. It had to do with cryptocurrency, and it was vulgar, and I was pissed. I had one of these crypto trading platforms literally pull the rug out from under me and freeze up a bunch of assets, and then just poof, they were gone, tens of thousands of dollars. And with no explanation, still to this point, they haven't explained why they did this with this particular crypto coin. And I did a tweet immediately after it happened, and it was a kind of a snarky comment to this Coinbase company, and it went viral. And I was like, out of all of the important things I felt I had tweeted over the years, very important, serious, this one where I'm I'm completely being a jerk. is the one that goes viral. Like you've got, I mean, when I say viral, it had, maybe a few thousand likes on it. And I was shocked by this, right? The coin who I was talking about reached out to me. Nothing was resolved, of course, but yeah, it's go figure. Twitter's an interesting sphere though of interaction. I used to like it. It's pretty brutal at times
Well,
though.
it's a powerful platform because in theory you could reach the whole world and all kinds of celebrities, if they wanted to
Hmm.
retweet you. But I think
Yeah, you have access to the inaccessible. Yeah,
but
yeah.
then they basically censored everybody off it. I mean, they threw me off ages ago, and now I found that I can get back on again. But how long that's going to last, I don't know. But I guess I'll take it easy and try and do other things because I don't want to invest too much in
Yeah.
Twitter so far. Oh, I don't know. I don't really know what I want to do. I mean, the thing is, what I guess what I'm trying to say is that a lot of the problems are actually quite simple. It's like you can say it is this thing that is wrong, it is that thing that is wrong, but people won't actually do anything about it or won't even acknowledge it. And that I think is is the problem, the denialism, the people who won't admit that something bad has gone wrong, but you can explain it quite simply, which is
Well,
sorry.
people are afraid of change, and they're afraid of uh, I think they feel powerless too. There's not much you can do about. They feel these problems are, they see as being massive, and they would require change and effort. And I think we're pretty lazy,
Yeah, they
with
don't.
with our.
Yeah, I mean, I think what they don't want to do is to admit that there is this major thing wrong, because if they admit it, then they have to do something about it. So they just sort of look around thinking there's something else that they can talk about rather than the thing. I guess there's this expression, rearranging the deck chairs on the Titanic after it has hit the iceberg. It might be therapeutic to rearrange the deck chairs, but you're not really fixing the problem.
Right. That's a good point. The chat is demanding we get on to our hating on dudes, hating on us dudes. I don't hate on men. Do you? I don't see you hating on men at all. Um,
Well, I have been
I think.
accused of that, and I guess in my last stream, that there might be some content in that might suggest that I have a problem with how they are, dealing with things, because they don't know how to behave. It's not that I'm saying women know how to behave, but I'm saying that if just one sex knew how to behave, then the other side would also know how to behave, if you know what I mean. So,
We'll lead by example, right?
well, the thing is, okay, if the woman were helpless, then the man would kind of white knight and come and fix things, right? And if the but so in a way, if things were normal, you fall, I pick you up, you throw a ball, I catch it, it's just the sort of normal instinctive things that people do. And
Hmm.
I don't think even that is happening now. But I'm talking in particular of male and female, because well, my little theory about patriarchy and all that. I'm just saying, the race and the Jews and whatever that they say it is, that's a red herring, um, because people are just not even agreeing with themselves about what ought to be done or what the problem is. And they're afraid to even discuss it with people that they know in real life, which is why the internet is, might make us think that we've done something enormous, but really you've just wasted your time. And all the stuff that you posted, nobody took it seriously because you didn't do it under your real name. And no, and if you just used a fake avatar, why should anybody take you seriously?
Right, right. The demand to show thyself, right? You must verify who you are and what you look like and where you're sitting in order for anyone to take your words as valuable or not. Yeah, it's really strange. And I mean, we're also in this culture now too where if a man does defend a woman, right, and then if a man does come to the aid of a woman, it's looked down upon. They're ridiculed for it, right? There's no longer the damsel in distress broken down on the side of the road. People just drive by, so there's that too. There's a yeah, it's really backwards. I think the problem here is we have a platform where we have a bunch of soapboxes with very mentally ill people standing on them, appealing to these audiences and the fray, I call it. And they tend to get more regard than I'll go on YouTube and I'll look through suggestions or whatever. And I like lectures, I like documentaries, I like things like that. There'll be a lecture on neuroscience or something of the sort, right? Brilliantly done, very well presented, and it will have 15 views, or something about cures to cancer, some important stuff, and they'll have no views. But then you'll find a stream in which they talk about, gosh, I don't know, mukbang, right? Where somebody's eating McDonald's and they're overweight and they're sitting there shoving their face full of fast food, and it'll have 7 million views. So it's a sign of the interest with the public. People, I think, are looking for their escape room online, and they don't use the tool as they could. This is a powerful tool we all have in our fingertips, and we could use it to do things,
Yes,
but
yes, but
people would
because
rather.
because I've just been saying, like, look, it's, because you haven't got a moral system, and people still don't get it. I'm just saying the moral system is what makes you, the law should encourage you to do the right thing for your group and discourage you from doing the wrong thing that harms the interests of the group. I mean, that's all it has to do, right? That's what, religions are for.
Fundamentally, yeah. You would think, right? But
And social media can distort it because, suddenly you do this bad thing and you get lots of likes, and you do this good worthy thing that is, educational, and you get no views. So people will kind of do whatever gives them the likes, because the likes is a positive thing and the dislike is the thing you don't want. But then, we know that YouTube cheats, because suddenly they won't tell you how many dislikes a video has anymore.
yeah, it's interesting that they hid that, isn't it? It's almost like they're trying to restructure how we view and judge things. I suppose maybe it's not a bad thing. I feel that we're so easily manipulated or influenced by our peers' opinions, right? So you see a video that has more dislikes, that judgment is kind of sets in prior to even knowing what the content is. So that may not be a bad thing, but
It
yeah,
creates
it's
interest
that
anyway. I mean, you might want, because it's actually better for you to dislike something than to not respond. So that, I know they want
that's true.
engagement.
It's engagement, right, Claire? It's some sort of engagement. At least you had a opinion about it, but yeah, the dopamine hit of the positive interaction is what drives people to such pointless and mindless topics. That's what keeps these certain creators creating content that's really just mindless, and it's just a bunch of crap. The drama lately is what blows me away. People love the drama. They love it. If we were sitting here bashing I don't know, somebody who in this area of YouTube everybody knew, said we picked a person, decided just to run them, behind the truck for a while. The view count would be, there'd be 60 people in here. They would all be, chiming in and participating. They would be listening, right? They want that degrading and that toxic type of content. And I
The
don't,
the blood
it's a
sport.
shame. They
But
want that controversy, you know.
yeah, they want the drama, but the point I guess I was trying to say is that all you have to do is make people do the right thing and reward them for doing the right thing, and punish them for doing the wrong thing, and then you have a peaceful, stable society where everybody is happy with each other. But if you get it wrong and you make people like the wrong thing and dislike the right thing, and and there is no particular desire to change people's behavior in a good way, and that is the disturbing thing, I guess. That.
Do you agree with China's their social credit scoring system that they have? I don't even know how much that is in place over there, but I've heard about this where they're socially um, giving people a credit score based on merit and behavior, which I find really interesting.
Yeah, it's like we got that at school, didn't we? We got a star if we behaved well, and you know
Hmm.
came in with a tidy, with tidy and polite and whatever. So you can reward any kind of behaviour with a star, but obviously you'd expect the people in charge to reward desirable behaviour with a star. I have nothing in principle against the social credit system of China, because what they do is it's like you jaywalk, and then the camera fixes its focus on you, and then it kind of displays your face, the one jaywalking, or what, or whatever, so you are embarrassed, or
Well, I think we need a little bit more humiliation amongst people, right? I mean, there's
yeah.
the shamelessness of everybody is just it's not good. People have zero. They're just they'll do anything and they don't care who sees. And so maybe it's not a bad idea.
I
Maybe
don't
we
think it's a
need to
bad
be held
idea at all.
accountable.
I mean, the whole liberal ethos is to say, we're too cool for rules. No, nobody can tell us what to do, and then you're so cool that your society collapses, and nobody does what is necessary to even keep the society in existence.
Well, it's we're being reigned by chaos. There's a desire and a push towards this chaotic um, energy that's going on around us, and the envelope keeps being pushed and pushed and pushed, and pretty soon we're going to push it off the cliff, and then what? Then where are we going to be left standing in just total destruction? And it sounds kind of dramatic, I guess, to say that, but I really don't see how this, where we're moving, how it's going to move to an improved quality of life and state. It's just not good. We have lost people.
Yeah, but okay, but I suppose being a political activist, I have to be an optimist. But I'm saying that in theory, it could all be corrected if only somebody would do the right thing. If only somebody would just say, "Yeah, I agree because it's true and I can't deny it," you know, and that's all that's
Well,
required.
everything you're saying is true, though. Everything you're saying is absolutely true, and there is no denying it, even though people would want to. It's just,
But Daniel
there's
denied it the whole time, you know.
I know he did. That's because he just wants to, he doesn't agree with your premise. He dislikes your beliefs so much that he won't even agree with you on a factual based point that is right in everybody's faces simply because he dislikes the way you want to resolve the problem.
But he can't
That's
find a
sad.
better way. It's like, yeah, you're supposed to be the intellectual. You have this sort of unionization of, white people and his DNA nation. It's like, well, how are you going to make it work? You have to make it law, right? That's the only way you can do
Yes.
it. If you make everything optional, people will opt not to do the thing you want.
Well, yeah, I mean, I don't understand. I understand what he's saying, and I don't think it's wrong, but it's not wrong. I get that scientifically, medically, you can look at it and say, okay, maybe this guy is onto something, but how in the heck would you even begin to enforce that? It would have to take complete, I mean, my God, you would have to, by force, genetically test everybody, put them into their proper areas of living. I mean, it's an impossible idea, I suppose.
Yeah, it's
It would
so
have
high
to, it would take,
maintenance. It's so high maintenance. I mean, that is the
yes.
thing. And if it's high maintenance, you really need to get, you have to get all the people to agree, and then they have to do the thing and enforce it. And it's just too high maintenance, basically. And there's a, even
Well, I
this
think
idea.
we're far too mixed now, Claire. Don't you think we're probably far too mixed to even have a state like that in these unionized, genetically based, areas of the world? I mean, I don't think we could even individualize people as to being one particular
Yeah, yeah, because then I'd be
genetic.
trying to tell him, like, say, actually, I've noticed something about white people. They don't particularly like each other, you know.
Hmm.
And they,
Hmm.
it will be, well, who are you to tell me what to do? I'm not doing it just to annoy you.
Do you think his premise is a sugary coated cover for maybe just him being not liking certain races? Do you think maybe he's trying to rationalize it through a intelligent sounding system?
Well, yeah, but I mean, there is a particular kind of mindset, like saying, oh, it's the Jews who are to blame, or whoever it is that they think is oppressing them, and I guess if you didn't have any Jews in your society, you'd be blaming your ruling classes, right, or anybody who sort of done better than you and in a higher position than you. And of course, it's dangerous because, if you say that everybody above you is to blame, then there will be people below you who will blame you for having too much property and, being too, better
Hmm.
looking than they are. And it could just sort of trigger a cycle of, well, quite destructive behavior. And it actually has happened in history, and rich people suffered because everybody knew where they lived and how much money they had and wanted their stuff.
Yeah,
So it's not
absolutely.
safe for
Yeah.
anybody. Yeah, I know people, rich people think they can always leave the country, but, do you really want to leave the country? And, when you arrive in somebody else's country as a refugee, are you going to be that well treated? Or will they kick you
Most likely
around?
not. Most
Yeah.
likely you're not going to be. And
Yeah,
and then you
you
have the
came from a
problem.
failed state. I
Right.
mean,
Well, look at the refugees right now. I don't see many of them all that successful and thriving, right? They're struggling groups of people who don't have a means to the end, who are dependent on these countries that really don't want them. It's a horrible state to be in. I mean, it's very sad. So, yeah, I'm not sure what his deal is, but he's definitely not open to constructive criticism or explanation he doesn't want to give. He's an interesting character, that's for sure.
yeah, I mean,
That is for sure.
I think part of his neurosis is that he won't actually acknowledge what he really has to do to get what he really wants. So he won't say it. It's like, yeah, I don't want to be associated with Nazis, but I don't like Jews. And, if in my ethno state, I won't include them, you know. That's what he said.
He doesn't even want to talk to people of other races on his panel.
I know. But the thing is, in his Oslo state, he said like, Jews won't be part of it. It's like, yeah, because you'll kick them out. Oh no, 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 no! I'm not going to kick them out. How dare you say such a terrible thing about. But it's like, yeah, if you otherize them, eventually you're going to be kicking them out or talking about it. So,
What's he plan on doing with them? Where's he? Where are they going to go? I mean, there's only a couple solutions to that, and we're regressing back in time. I think if we, yeah,
and
it's
he can't
really
deny
the
it,
fun.
and he can't even stop
Vincent
him.
Bruno has more of a logical basis and premise to his whole eugenic utopia that he has the answers to some of these questions, right? When he explains this, he can answer those questions where Daniel cannot.
Yeah.
So if that puts it into perspective, I think when a eugenic, incestually based utopia of polygamy is
Without a
makes more
religion.
sense than
Yeah, without a religion, it seems. You know, I
Yeah.
mean, how can you?
Yeah.
The thing is, there's so much. Okay, the problem now when you try to tell people something is that they'll say, they'll either get it immediately and already agree with you before you even spoke to them, or they'll say that you're a conspiracy theorist if it's a bit difficult to understand, right? Um, and and
Right.
and the thing is, you know, once you get this resistance, it'll be very hard to explain to them, what your narrative is, because they'll challenge it at every like, yeah, it did really happen, but correlation is not causation, or something stupid
Oh
like that.
God.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
what so you need to make your point very quickly, and if you find yourself having to explain some complicated theory to them, you'll just never get it done, because one of the things that I've noticed with Jen Shaft Church of Entropy was that Duvin was telling her off for losing the debate to flat earthers. She, a maths and physics graduate, she lost the debate to some flat earthers.
How?
I don't know. I
In
did
their
actually
opinion,
listen
she
to it.
lost the debate. In their opinion, in this particular group's opinion, she lost the debate. But I'm sure scientifically that would be that would be impossible to lose. I mean, unless she just really stumbled over herself. But I mean, flat Earth is the easiest thing to debate. I would assume, for especially for a physics and mathematical person. And she is incredibly intelligent. She knows her stuff, and she knows her stuff. She has a lot of confidence, I've noticed. But
But
did she really lose the debate? That's
well, according to
interesting. Or
Duvin,
was that
I didn't listen to it, but I kind of accept that it's hard to prove what you think is obvious. You can only say that the Earth goes round the sun, because everybody else agrees with you, right? But if he said, "Well, Tiffany, how do you know the Earth goes round the sun? What? How come it isn't the other way around?" And then you'll have to sort of say, "Ooh, well, when Copernicus and Galileo
I
discovered
see
it,
what you're saying. Yeah.
it's some. I mean, I've asked a physics graduate, and that they can't explain it, because oh, I didn't learn that. It wasn't part of the curriculum. I have no idea how they discovered that, it was the other way around. But I know it's something to do with the orbit and Venus going
A lot of
round
it
and
has to
coming.
do with energy and gravitational pull and the heat from the sun, I believe. It's a pretty my
Yeah, but
dog's
if
losing his
somebody's
mind right
gonna be messing with you and pretending not to get it, the hell will freeze over before they'll get it, because they'll just not pretend not to understand, right? Um, or
the flat
distort
earthers
whatever
are
you're trying to
interesting
say to
because
them.
well, these flat earthers are really interesting to me because they are so married to this idea of this disk earth or whatever it is with this filament and because at some point in the Bible, there was an image of this dome and everything. But the thing that I don't the thing that I can't figure out with these people is, where's the edge? I mean, it's just a simple concept. Okay, if the Earth is a plate and it's flat and it's a disk or whatever, but if it was flat, naturally something flat like that, that's not a sphere, would have to have an edge. Somebody would have had to have seen the edge of the Earth. I mean, that's just the most logical, simple uh, counter
They didn't
argument
fall
I
off. They
could.
didn't fall off. I mean,
Why is the ocean I mean, what's keeping the water in this place? It's just so stupid to me. I can't. I tried to go into a flat Earth community once and argue with them, and my argument that I came prepared with were it was lunar eclipses. The only thing that can cast a curved shadow is a sphere in that manner, right? And this is something that was discovered. I mean, we're talking ages ago, but pre-Christ, right? So a sphere is the only thing that can cast a curved shadow on the sun or I'm sorry, on the moon, right?
right.
Um, so naturally, if you have a sphere, which is the Earth. It's going to cast a curved shadow, which, creates the lunar eclipse. And it just, oh, it's pretty simple. No, 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 no. It's a hologram. And I mean, they had every argument in the book to this simple concept. I mean, the line of sight is something you could argue with flat earthers. If we were on a flat uh, plane of area, plane, if it was flat, with very good eyesight, you could see very, very far into the distance. Let's say you had an unobstructed view in front of you. By theory, you could see a light from where you're standing all the way over in Connecticut. If there was nothing else, that was if there was no other light, noise, or buildings or anything. I mean,
I
the
mean, because
line
we
of
can
sight is
see
very.
stars, light years away, that kind of thing.
Right, right. So if we were flat, we could see a whole lot of stuff, right? I mean, shit. I mean, you could flash a flashlight at me, from all,
From where?
if it was a clear day, I might be able to, or a clear night, I might be able to see you. So it's such a silly argument.
But
It
why do they
pains me
do
when I
that?
see it.
That is the pathology of it. I mean, why do they deny nuclear weapons and, whatever it is
Uh,
that they choose, the moon landings? And I think there is a pathology to it. I think
there
that
is,
they're
yeah,
basically trying to show their government how much they hate their government, that they've been lied to for so long about these things. I think that that is,
yeah.
at the back of their minds what they're trying to do. That they're saying everything you've been telling us, government, we disbelieve. You know.
Well, and the moon landing was something that really, I mean, at least in America, it really brought us together. We were really, it was a point of time that Americans were really rooting for America, and they there was just a lot of love for the country,
It
when
brought the
during
whole
the,
world
when the
together, I think.
it kind of
It's like
did.
we
Yes, it
did it
kind of
as the
did.
human race. We did it. Uh,
Yeah, and it was a positive thing. I mean, the moon landing was, and they have their arguments about the video footage and the way the flags were blowing, and they've all been debunked and explained. And you're right. It's a pathology. There's something going on with these people, and I think a lot of it is based on very unimpressive real lives, very unaccomplished people who don't have much foundation of their own to kind of boost themselves up with. So they subscribe to these really crazy ideas of fake moon landings and all these I mean, conspiracies happen. Let's be real here. There are things that we're told that aren't true. I mean, that's just common logic and knowledge. But to really question some of these things, it's that are so ridiculous. I mean, okay, let's say the Earth is flat. What? Okay, now what? What does that mean? What is it going to change anything? Are we all going to die? I mean, there's no productive solution to these ideas that makes things better or changes anything. It's just kind of pointless,
it's just
right?
a display
Is
of
how I see it.
neurosis, but um,
Hmm.
and, and I think we have to talk about the neurosis of men, which I think is fundamentally the heart of the problem, because I think they are in denial. All these men who think of themselves as political activists, as intellectuals like Daniel, they I don't think they're up to acknowledging the problem. And I think, it really is as simple as this. We were talking about, well, space, maybe. Yeah, the moon landing. So the answer to how do you go to the moon would be, well, you get yourself into a space-worthy vessel that will take you to the moon. And even if you yourself have no access to it because you're not in NASA, and you have no science degree and they'll never choose you to be an astronaut, the way to get to the moon is still to get into a space worthy vessel, whatever it is, that will get you from
Hmm.
Earth, and that's it. I mean, even if you can't, the answer is still correct, but because there are all these people who think, but that means, my they have to give up so many things. Like they can't dream of maybe one day flying to the moon on their little wings. And well, it's like whatever it is that they don't want to give up. They want some little part of the lie that they want to believe in that has become a part of their identity, and they don't want to give it up. And
Yes.
it could be just hatred of a group that maybe isn't to blame, or some other aspect of their personality that they refuse to give up, or because of
Yeah.
some sacred memory of childhood, or whatever. They won't give it up.
Yeah.
It has become that lie has become part of their identity.
Yes, 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 and the reality, and I find these people to have a hard time accepting neurosis. They're obviously they don't accept reality. That it's like you have to also wonder what's so bad about their reality that they have to live in this world of such paranoia and distrust and question. It's not bad to question things. I mean, having diligence and what your knowledge is, what you're being told, and checking out, different things. There's nothing wrong with that. That's just inquisitive, but to go to the point like these people that I have that follow me around with about this school shooting thing, it's really I have a very small reach, Claire. I mean, I do not have a large group of people who I speak to, and I really don't discuss many topics anymore. But yet these people will follow me around with this idea that I'm this agent of sorts, to warn everybody. But it's like they feel accomplished by doing this. This
They have a
particular
mission in
man,
life to thwart you and to do you down.
it's so
Is that what
bizarre.
it's become?
Yes,
You
yes.
have your
Well, really,
hatred.
the irony is that they're trying to silence me off of the platform. They would prefer they won't ever admit it, but really, what they want is they want me to go away. They don't want to see me around. They don't want me to have a voice. That's what they want. They disagree with my opinion on one thing and one thing only. So they think I've never had a conversation with any of these people to actually see if we disagree as much as they think we do, but and these charges are led by men. It is, this one particular guy, fellow Mon, who's spearheading let's take out Tiffany. Let's get her away from us so we can go back to whatever it is they feel they were doing before I was around. I mean, I don't really care what they do. I don't watch their channels, but I think that's what that's how misguided our men have become to where following a woman around and slandering her has become this noble act, and there's other men that cheer it on. And it's such a waste of time because honestly, I don't care what they post. I don't care what they talk about. I'm not bothered by it, and I'm not going to try and take away their right to say what they want to say. But this neurosis, this neurotic type behavior, is just it's become normal.
Yeah, and
It's
everybody's
become
minds are kind of it needs to be reprogrammed, right? Just to clear the crap out, and so we start
Yeah, right.
doing the right thing that makes us happy, or at least go in that general direction. And nobody's talking about that. That's the weirdest thing. It's like, well, if you don't want to be heading towards the edge of the cliff and you're walking towards the edge of the cliff, well, you could stop. If it's still too much for you to make a U-turn, you could kind of think about it and stop. And it's sort of, oh,
Nobody
no,
wants
no,
to be
no, no, no.
wrong.
Yeah, they don't want
Yeah,
to
they
be
don't want
wrong.
to admit that they're wrong. Yeah, they have a massive avoidance of shame and self-ownership and self-reflection. It's really scary. It's really scary when you think about it. If we can't admit that we're wrong about something, possibly, um, we're going to tread water. It's really, and I think they also don't want to admit that they're possibly, mentally ill. We need to start slipping Paxil in our waterways or something. We need to start medicating our bottled water. So, I mean, I don't even know. I don't know. It's Claire, I have a sort of a witch hunt going on for me right now, and it's kind of always been, but the thing that's so interesting to me about it is the fact that, you know, I've done very little as far as to anybody in particular. I just have my opinions, and these groups of people who just join in, and it's and they invest a lot of time in trashing me, and I find it to be so pointless. I mean, it's like I'm not going anywhere. Nobody's going to scare me off the platform. I don't listen to most of it. I really don't care. It's more of annoying because I get sent these links all the time, but this attack on a woman, we no longer live in the age of uplifting or helping, and then the thing is, if anybody defends me, they're ostracized. I mean, they will have a group of supporters who will instantly turn on them, especially if they're male, because they've become a simp or
Mm.
a cuck, or somebody I've obviously blackmailed. It's so it's so bizarre.
Mm.
It is so bizarre.
I think it must be envy, I suppose. I guess the men, they, I don't know, they can't have you, then they're going to be mean to you, and the women maybe think that way. Um, I guess that's the only sense I can make of it. And it makes them, it gives them a kind of group identity if they can all agree that they hate you and hate watch you and that sort of thing, maybe. I don't know.
That's a kind of what but that is kind of a small example of a much larger problem that's going on too, because this happens on a much larger scale. For me to have such a small channel with such little amounts of content on there anymore, and I don't even I don't even post very much for anybody to judge or anything like that. But when this happens on a larger scale with individuals, it's this becomes dangerous, and it's a
It's a pathology.
well, Gary. I mean, it's pathology, Gary. I'm not saying I trust the government or the MSN about anything. I mean, I have very reasonable censorship, or I censor myself from most mainstream media. I censor myself from most politics, simply because I don't feel that it's a good use of my time. I learn about things that are going on through different means, and I stick to kind of what I'm interested in and what I know. And I'm not saying that anybody should trust everything that they're taught or told or presented with. But what I am saying is that it's dangerous to then question everything, though. It becomes, like Claire's saying, neurotic. Um, and it's okay if people do want to listen to everything and believe everything they're told, because quite frankly, that's their it's their life, right? That they're affecting. It shouldn't affect yours very much.
Mm.
Um,
Mm.
you know, other people's opinions are their own. But
I think that they
yeah, I think
just
it's
need their group
unfortunate.
identity, and you can't could become a hate figure. I don't know if you watched 1984 when they have a kind of, I think it's called 3 Minute Hate, and that's kind of like a
Yes.
prayer service or something. They have to hate this
Well,
person and say they
yeah,
did.
and it's almost like we've lost such common ground amongst one another that this has become the linking type of behavior that makes us relate to one another. Since we can't find common ground on our opinions, our political views, or anything else we can't agree on, but it's very easy to agree on hating a person, right? So that's almost what brings this unity amongst people. We let's just all hate this particular individual. Let's all hate on this person because we think that they're doing things wrong with the underage person. Let's all come together and hate on this person. It's very unproductive. It really is. um
Yeah, and it
but
doesn't even, it reminds me of school days when, kind of, one day you're the one being bullied. You can't even work out why, but everybody, decides to victimize you on that particular day. But, it will pass. But, you know, um, I, it's a kind of mass hysteria, I think. because you see people, somebody, I think that the only maybe two ways of dealing with, you see somebody being bullied, you either join in, or you well, tell others not to do it, or you walk on by. Sorry, maybe three ways of dealing with the same situation. You know, you join in,
Well,
or
it's
you,
easy to walk by.
yeah,
It's
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 easier to
hard to
walk
speak
by.
out against. Yeah, I mean, I think that's probably part of my problem is that I tend to speak out against, things I feel that are wrong undiscriminately. I don't play favoritism for people just because maybe I like them or they're part of my social circle. Wrong is wrong, and that tends to be wrong is all over the map, right? So I think that's it's hard for people to do because truly, I mean, you stand up for the wrong thing according to the public sphere, the public realm. You represent one thing that they find to be um uh offensive, right? It's over for you. You're done. You're done. You're forever labeled. There's no changing any minds. But in the same sense, it's a waste of time trying investing energy in people who have come to a conclusion based on unreasonable circumstances and non-factual basis, and trying to sway that opinion. That opinion is made up. It's said and done. And it's kind of like with some of these people, Claire, with you, that I noticed with your premise. Somebody like Daniel, I don't think is ever going to give you a fair listen to what you're saying because he's already made his mind up, right? So do we invest more energy in getting Daniel to listen and hopefully one day, agreeing with something, or do we move on to, more non-Daniels who might listen and
But
and
they're all
and
like
learn and
that. I mean, it's like a lot of them with bigger channels, they behave in the same way too. All the way up to mainstream media, because I think if the media were doing its job, it would be encouraging discussion and platforming them. What if they were
Well, that's not that.
serious?
It's a tool. It's an arm of propaganda. The
Yeah.
media is not reporting anything. They're pushing ideas from whoever's paying them to. That's I don't know what's going on outside. That's the problem with the media. It's not there. There's no more journalism. There's propaganda. By
Exactly, and this sort of thing is also the case for people at the bottom complaining about the media. They're not better either. They'll make up some excuse like, we're not going to platform you because you did this wrong thing, but you never did this wrong thing. But they have to make up an excuse, and that would be their official line of why you are no longer invited back on their platform, or you won't be invited. They'll think of some excuse to to say why they won't have you.
right. Well, something wrong that was they've uncovered that they feel is offensive or might it's really I mean, it's been a very long time since I've seen on mainstream media an actual journalist, an actual person who goes through the process of journalism to report on a story where they research, they talk to involved parties, they do background and history on the lead up to the situation. I mean, there's very little of that. It's a bunch of teleprompters and actors, I feel like, shiny, pretty people just to read
To
content that is written with a underlying intent that we're not aware of, and presented to us as being reporting. It's really it's discouraging. Like I said, I don't even bother watching most mainstream news anymore because it's the news cycles are so fast. There's such little dedication to the stories they do present. They're here one day, the next day it's something completely different. And um, surprisingly, I don't trust it because I don't think it's trustworthy. Look at what happened with oh God, what was that recent with the pandemic? I mean, that was a perfect example of why we shouldn't listen to news reports. I mean, this pandemic, I think, has really caused a lot of this neurotic behavior that from people in the past, it's kind of given it credibility, right? Some of the questioning. I mean, with this, it's created a scenario. Well, it's like, well, yeah, maybe maybe there's a point to some of these questions and doubt
Yeah, yeah,
because
because it's just happening more and more. I guess in the alt right, dissident right. I mean, so in the last few years, it would be Brexit for British people, and then there would be those who support Trump. But that's already a pretty big division, and then after Trump, election stolen or not, and then pandemic. So well, I guess what I'm trying to say is whenever there's a split in public opinion, there will be a further split after some, other unexpected event to splinter an
hmm
already splintered society even more.
hmm
And
yeah.
it's just happening faster and getting worse. And
Well, and it's interesting for me to watch, like, for instance, the Trump supporters. I kind of have to, it's kind of funny to me because, I mean, really, the very rampant Trump supporters who happen to also be anti-Semitic. I mean, who do they actually think was controlling Trump? I mean, it's like it doesn't make sense. Trump. If you want a society that is not controlled by uh, as Daniel puts it, kosher people, and that what Trump would have been your last option. I mean, that's just obvious. It doesn't, and that's what I think frustrates me with this and everything, because it's just not logical. There's a lack of common sense that goes on with these people's ideas that we're anti this, but we're going to support a guy who's clearly controlled by the people we're against. I mean, it doesn't add up to me. I can't
yeah,
quite wrap my head around it. But
yeah. I mean, nothing
yeah, Claire,
makes
I don't know.
sense.
Well, I feel Donald Trump was very much controlled by by Israel. I mean, it was pretty obvious, the alliance with Israel, but yet so many people who are, I mean, I don't know what they call these groups, the white nationalists, or these wing nuts, or whatever the heck it's called. They're all, Trump supporters, but yet they hate, they don't, they, but they seem to
To
ignore the
hate him.
fact that he big ally of Israel. That's what doesn't make sense to me about the whole thing.
Well, I suppose he
Um,
was doing something that they liked, even if he was doing something else that they didn't like. I mean, well, I don't know. It's
I,
not like they're spoilt for choice about anybody.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. Well, I think Trump spoke to the unspoken to. He was the guy who came out and he had, a platform that reached the people who'd been ignored for a very long time. And he also he co-signed people like Alex Jones initially in kind of these more uh, fringe type of characters, which typically were written off as being nuts, and he gave them a some platform and some credibility. And initially, at first, he did. I mean, I think he realized that was a horrible idea down the line, but it's just that's another one. Alex Jones is a in my opinion, a hack. He's a provocateur, but people will defend that guy to just unbelievable
I think
lengths. It's
all you have to do is sort of state a position clearly, and then people will come to you. I mean, because there will be some people who, you know, like your position, or think there is something in it. So if you speak clearly enough, they will come. Even if it won't be enough for you to change the world or anything, but
right,
because you become distinctive, you stand for this story or against that story or something. But
right, right.
if you never say anything clearly, then then it becomes difficult for people to remember you and what you stand for.
Right, right. Well, maybe that's what he was good at doing, why he had such staunch supporters despite, not performing on anything. I think he was, he was also stonewalled by Congress too in
Yeah.
his during his presidency. He didn't have the chance to get anything done, but yeah,
But I think
yeah,
you know he supported the American proletariat, right? I mean that's
yes.
the most distinctive thing that he did, and they were the ones who were worried about immigration, and they didn't want their, to go and die in America's imperial wars, and he stood up for them.
Well, it's interesting because America, compared to a lot of other nations, has very loose immigration laws. I mean, even some of these more liberally leaning countries, like for instance, Canada. I mean, good luck getting into Canada. They have a very tough immigration system. You have places like New Zealand. I mean, it's incredibly hard to move and live in New Zealand. I mean, there's quite the process, but yet you have, here these more liberally minded people who just want to let everybody in, and you would think at some point they would have to realize that's not a good idea. Not only for the American people, but even for the immigrants. I mean, there's no benefit to be held by anybody by just allowing, 100, 200,000 people to cross our borders every month from Mexico. I mean, it's a dangerous lack of policy and process that benefits nobody in the end because, it's a ripple effect on communities and resources and whatnot. But yet
Yeah, it's a
there they are
mass
pushing.
migration of people,
Hmm.
which must be so scary if your city or town is being taken over, and I no, it's just the weird thing that nobody cares, or okay, they care but they can't do anything about it, and you think, well, I mean, obviously the system is broken. If people are
Right.
clearly upset about it, but they can't do anything about it. But it's supposed to be a democracy, and the government's supposed to be looking after them. So
Well,
it's sort of neurotic behaviour. I mean, if you can call the country being neurotic, saying one
oh, I
thing
think we
and doing another.
Well, we kind of are. What ends up happening in these cities where a lot of the immigrants wind up is that it puts a strain on their entire social structure. So you have a police force that is now having to police um, things other than what they should be doing. You have a school system which is having to accommodate language learners and children who don't speak English, and that puts a strain on the funding. So then they're taking away creative arts and things like that. So ultimately, what the problem winds up rolling downhill to even our children and their education and everything else. So it becomes this huge costly
Affecting
strain
future
on.
generations,
Yes,
and
yes,
nobody
and
cares.
nobody cares. And the thing that's so well, it's interesting. The city that I live in, we actually have an immigration uh, uh, holding center here, a holding building or whatever they call it, one of the immigration units, and they were bringing so many people in, and what they were then doing is they were processing them however they do and then dropping them off at a bus stop at a near a mall area out here, and they weren't there was an outbreak of tuberculosis in this immigration center, which is that's a very scary thing. That's nothing to play around with, but they were still releasing people. So the people in the city that I lived in got so fed up with this. They were so frustrated. What they did is they actually made a human barricade in front of the driveway into this detention center, right? They stood there, they figured out the schedules of when they were busing the people in, and they actually barricaded the entrance to this detention center themselves. They all stood in a line, so however many people deep, and wouldn't allow the bus to come in. And there was really nothing the police could do about it. And I don't think they even wanted to do anything about it because I think they probably agreed with the outrage of the citizens, the community here. And sure enough, they just turned the bus around. They had to take them somewhere else, So it's there's some diligent people out here, maybe a little bit crazy, but they stonewalled that. But they can't stand there every day. They
Yeah.
can't stand there and block every bus from coming in and whatnot. But at that time, they definitely prevented this mass influx into the city because they then were forced to reroute where they're dropping some of these people. And you don't notice it, but in the community necessarily when you're driving around neighborhoods, all these, it's suddenly all these Hispanic people. It's not like that. It's just more of it becomes a financial issue within these cities, and everybody kind of suffers. So, but no, just open the borders, let them in. That's, it's good for everybody. It's just so sick. It's so misguided and pointless.
Yeah, and you're the first woman who wasn't sort of, I don't know, completely hostile to my little idea. I mean, I'm basically saying, you need some system of rules so that people agree to do stuff when there is a problem, and it
Well,
seems
we
that
do.
it's
Well,
buck
we do.
passing, isn't it?
Well, I think we've taken faith in a higher power out of our government, and we're now, we're governing based off of, you know, offense and the emotional state of very small groups of people, and it's really weird to me. I don't agree with every single point you have, but I do agree with the basis of your ideas, which is to have a society governed on value,
Yeah, you
and
need shared values in order to agree that this is what we must do as a people, as a
yes,
community, whatever it is, you know.
yes, yes.
And
When we're promoting promiscuity and we're promoting the individual and not the family, and we're encouraging you know this extended adolescence of our young adults, and we're encouraging this uh, very misguided gender, that it's these things are so wrong, and some of them are such small issues that we shouldn't even be talking about them. It's a distraction, I think. But um, the main thing that I see wrong here is people don't have any higher power that they are in fear of, that they feel they have to answer to anymore, and they've lost that guidance of having faith and having a fear of what happens, what's going to happen to you based on your
if you ignore reality, you know,
right.
you don't necessarily have to believe in God, but just to know that something bad will happen if you get certain important things wrong. Um,
Yeah.
it's sort of
Well,
like
it's
an
like I quoted to
animal.
Daniel today, would you rather reign in hell or serve in heaven? And that's kind of the attitude that people are having. They would much rather reign in a hellish type earth than serve in eternity in heaven. And so that's kind of like the tone I sense with everybody.
Yeah, but this sort of thing I think has been happening for quite a while. It's just that towards the end, it just gets worse more quickly, as you would expect. A thread at when a thread in a on a needle, this sort of roly thing, and it kind of finishes quick at the end because the circle. I'm not explaining myself very well, but but I guess towards the end things get worse more quickly. And,
Right, right. Well, there's not so much, we don't have as big of a buffer as we used to. If you take a look back maybe 30, 40 years ago at the status of society and families, I mean, you were encouraged to marry somebody, and you were encouraged to stay married to that person and to start a family and to go to church on Sundays. I mean, this was all very normal behavior. But if you look at it now, um, there's very little support for marriage. There's very little support for the family unit, and it's not necessarily something that people strive for anymore. It's almost frowned upon. Um, there's no big celebration or moral pat on
They
the
think you're
back
being
if you.
stupid, right? That, if they want to if
It's
you want to
completely
marry,
stupid. I
they
mean,
think you're
I don't
stupid.
understand. Yeah, it's completely stupid, and it's completely. I mean, it's damaging. We're the thing that people aren't seeing quite yet. What that we'll start to see, I think, in the next decade or so, is the children that are a result of this type of living and this type of environment. These children that are going to come out of this are so messed up, with so little direction and value and solid examples guiding them. It's scary when you think about it, you know?
But really, you see, what I find so extraordinary is that these Wignats, these nationalists who are supposed to care about their gene pool, their race, their nation, and you say, well, the only way to keep your group going is to produce the next generation in optimum conditions, which means that you have to marry a person of the opposite sex of your own race, and and have children and parent them properly, and this is how it's being done. That's that's the only way to do it. And
You would
it's
think
like,
so,
no,
right?
we're not interested. Who wants to get married anyway? But then and that means, well, obviously, you'll have fewer babies, and the ones you have won't be parented properly, and they'll go to bad schools, and they won't be fit to be employed, and everybody else will want to hire cheap immigrant labor to plug the gap in the labor market.
Well, how many of these wingnuts are actually married
No,
with
I mean
children?
they're mostly incels, right? And
Right.
that's why they're not interested in making marriage the thing. It's like they already know, and they don't want to be embarrassed about people saying nobody wants to marry them, or you know um the thing is, they can't bring themselves to talk about it because they are low status men. So the
Right.
kind of um embarrassed to even talk about it, I think.
No, well, I would imagine so, which is probably why they focus on what they focus on, because it's an avoidance tactic. They're avoiding, it's an escape room from their own reality. And I think that's what a lot of people who focus on some of these topics are doing, that they're creating an escape room so that they don't have to face the reality of their reality, and it's a deflection, means of deflection for them, because it's unpleasant sometimes to look in the mirror and say, oh wow, well, I'm
I did
40
it to
40.
myself. I'm to
Yes.
blame for my own
Yes.
unhappiness.
I did it to myself, and now it's too late to fix it. It's never too late to fix things, but yeah, I think that's a hard thing to realize. I mean, I have my own things that I have to face, and
Yeah.
at times, and it's like, whoa, that was those were bad choices, but you can't avoid them forever, under the guise of.
Yeah, you can't go around saying, look what you made me do to myself. You made me do this to myself.
That's what everybody likes to do, though. That's what everybody likes to do. The thing is that this behavior online and amongst people and stuff, it gives everyone an excuse, and it gives everybody something to blame. And who wouldn't find that addictive? If it's not their fault and it's this thing's fault or this person's fault, then that's very lucrative. It's
Yeah,
very lucrative for the individual who has a hard time looking in the mirror.
yeah, yeah. And I think that is the problem. And whether God exists or not, if we did believe in him, we would sort our problems out, sooner, because it's like, oh, I'm in pain, I'm suffering, and God must be punishing me. What could I have done wrong? And then you go through the list of the things that, you've been forbidden to do, and it's like, oh, well, I've done all those bad things, I better stop. And then you fix the problem, right? Without, arguing about whether, this word means what it, somebody else says it means. Because,
Well, I don't, it's, and I don't understand the problem with people admitting that they're wrong. I've noticed that with this lately too. There's this kind of this attitude with certain folks where them being wrong about something is potentially, it's death, and they cannot do it. And I'm noticing it more and more and more with people, that that they have this fear of being wrong about a topic, and it's gotten so bad. It's gotten to the point where the topic might not even be important, but the necessity to say, hey, look at me, I'm right, supersedes just any type of point behind it. You know what I mean? It's really, yeah, it's really weird. But I'm noticing it is mostly with single incel type men that this is going on with, the guys in their late 30s, early 40s, who aren't married, and don't have children, and things like that. It seems to be the stereotype of this type of attitude. But there's a lot
It's
of those guys now.
narcissistic personality disorder, isn't it? I mean, I
I
guess,
think so.
if you can't admit that you're wrong because you think you're so perfect, or, even if you're wrong, you think, oh, well, I'm not the sort of person who has to apologize for being wrong. That could be, another.
Well, I mean, that's just that's a massive character flaw, you know.
Mm.
To think about the doors you close with that type of mentality. I mean, it's a shame, but sometimes I suppose isolation is better than admitting that you were wrong about a pointless topic. I guess I've had a lot of this going on lately, so
Yeah.
it's
Yeah, and
boy,
if
there's
the
something.
people, yes. And I guess if the
Oh, I
people at
was.
the top are like that, then problems just hang around for longer than they need to. If everybody above you, that you have to kind of go through to get the problem solved, is denying that there is a problem, then yeah, the problem's going to hang around for much longer.
Yeah, yes, they will. Indeed, they will. And the longer we ignore the problem, the worse the problem gets, right? So, well, you've
Yeah.
got the quite a war going on in your chat right now. I'm not sure what's.
Uh,
Ay, ay,
I, 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 I
ay.
tend not to read it. It's obscured by the.
Yeah, no, I shouldn't either. But Claire, I need to get going. It's approaching 5 o'clock for me here, and I've got to get dinner started and do my Sunday evening things. But
Okay.
it was a pleasure speaking with you, like always.
As always, Tiffany, I don't think we spoke about men that much. Did you have any parting words about men before you go?
I think men are wonderful. I have nothing against men, and I think it's a shame that we have these nutty feminists running around trying to emasculate them and take away their good qualities. And I think men should stand up against it, and they should start becoming the dominant and leading strong men that we need, right? I think that they need to reassess their the way that they're engaging in things, and go back to being alpha, right? This is the word they like to throw around the internet, alpha men. I see very few of those
Yeah.
in
Well, I don't think
current
they know
time.
what alpha behavior is. I mean, they just.
Well, because they're all feminized. They've all become, I mean, I don't know how to put this politely, but they're all kind of womanly.
Bitchy.
It's bitch. Yeah, thank you. Yeah, we've got them very bitchy. I mean, more so than women even. It's incredible to see. It's a little discouraging, but yeah, I think men make men great again.
Make America
That
great
could be your
again.
plot.
Make men great
You should
again.
run.
Have some
Yeah, you could run.
principles.
Yes.
Adopt a
If you
moral
ran for
system.
political office, Claire, that could be your slogan. Make men great again.
Yes. Yes. I'll have a think about that one and see how I can implement it.
Yeah,
All
it's
right.
sketchy. All right, Claire, take care. Have a good rest of your evening.
Thank you. Thanks for
Bye bye.
coming. Bye.
Thank you.